What's going on, everybody? Matt Bove, Dom Tibbetts back here following the Bills' regular season finale, a 23-16 loss to New England Patriots. But listen, the main goal was achieved. Looks like everybody came out of that game healthy, so now the conversation switches, Matt, to what that potential playoff matchup will look like next weekend for the Buffalo Bills. At the time we're recording this, what time was it when you just looked at your phone?
It's going to be the Denver Broncos.
Yeah,
it's going to be the Denver Broncos, but I was smirking because my wife just messaged me and said, so it's definitely the Broncos, right? And yes, it's definitely the Broncos. At one point, they're up 31-0. I don't know if that's still the score of the game, but they are shellacking is a fun way of saying.
Shellacking, let's just say the Kansas City Chiefs backup.
Yeah,
if you saw the inactive list for the Chiefs, there's nobody important that's playing in this game because it is meaningless to them.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like what the Bills did today against the Patriots. We're recording this, like Dom said, on Sunday night. Is there anything we want to get out of the way from the Patriots game in particular, or do we want to go right to just initial thoughts on the Broncos? I feel like that's probably where most Bills fans are at.
The only thing I can think, the incentives were cool. That's a cool little way to end the season.
Yeah.
Von Miller gets a big payday. Matt Collins got paid. Sam Martin got paid.
Yeah.
James Cook tied the single-season rushing touchdown record.
Yeah.
An absolute Pro Bowl snub, But aside from that, I think the focus really is all about what's going to happen next week.
And I do think that is just, and this is just a very... Some people might roll their eyes or scoff at this, but I do think that is a sign of maturity and growth from Sean McDermott, and a sign that he has taken steps towards kind of understanding and coaching for his locker room a little bit more. He knew that those were important milestones to these guys. I mean, it's the same thing as letting Josh Allen start, right? Josh Allen played one play and then ran off of the field.
That was
It made it more complicated for the Bills, though, because then they had to take someone off their roster. They had to put Mike White back on their roster. I would imagine they get like Nicholas Morrow back to the practice squad or something. I know that now gives them Mike White as the emergency quarterback in the playoffs and everything, but they had to do a little bit of roster gymnastics there because they knew the start streak meant something to Josh Allen. I'm sure they wanted to get the record matched or broken from James Cook to reach 16. They wanted to get a certain name out of their record books, so I understand that one. But the Sam Martin one, they should have kicked a field goal there. They're on the 35-yard line, and they punted. But they knew that was a good opportunity for Sam Martin to get an extra $100,000.
Sean McDermott said, let me see that money.
Sean McDermott's like, we're going to Applebee's to celebrate after this one. So I do think that's a sign of growth, and I think we've seen a lot of that this year. He just feels like a different version of himself, but that's because things have gone well, and their season is still going. If their season ends abruptly or in a really heartbreaking way, I don't think people are going to be as high on Sean McDermott as maybe they have been the last couple months.
Yeah, this was a season where I think even coming into it, now they've had some really good success. I think Sean McDermott exceeding the expectations, and a lot of that comes with what you've seen from Josh Allen and the way they've managed to kind of use the new players, especially offensively, that Josh has had to utilize. I think he's bought himself a little bit more grace than what he came into the season with, but I still think when he says after the game today, the Super Bowl is the ultimate goal, it absolutely is. I think that you look at anything else but a Super Bowl at this point, it's a disappointment. It's all about that window.
Yeah.
And as long as Josh Allen's the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, we said this in training camp, OTAs, your window's always going to be open. It is never going to shut. I'm never going to listen to that argument about Josh Allen being the Bills quarterback and there's no window open. It always will be. But it certainly can get closer to being shut if you start not to be able to put it all together with seasons like they're having right now. They've got a lot of momentum. They've beaten the NFL's two top teams at this moment on both sides of the NFC and AFC.
Yeah.
I feel like the cards have fallen into the right place. It's almost very trying to think like the 2021 season where things were on fire. We all know how it ended. I know, but it feels like things are going in the right direction for this organization.
Yeah, so I just looked up. The Chargers are now starting to kind of lay the beat down on the Raiders, so it looks like the Chargers are going to win, which would give them the 5 seed. Now, it's interesting how you think about that because now that kind of puts them on a crash course to play against the Chiefs in the divisional round. But it also means the Bills are very likely to play the Ravens if they win. And we'll get to that later. You don't want to count your chickens before they hatch.
Of course.
And it feels like that is very much the mindset of the Bills. Because, listen, I know it's backups, but we were watching the Denver game in the newsroom. They're cooking. Bo Nix looks like a dude. At one point, he had not thrown an incomplete pass. They were moving the ball all over the place. I know it's backups. But I don't think the Broncos are, a cakewalk. They have had cakewalks in the wild card round before. They have played Skylar Thompson in the wild card round. They have played Mason Rudolph in the wild card round. Bo Nix looks like a guy. Now, that said, rookie quarterback on the road coming into a hostile environment, you would like to think that that's a game they can take care of business.
The only thing that concerns me, and it's just because I think Sean Payton is a very good coach.
Yeah.
And I go back to last season where Russell Wilson, a quarterback who I don't think is even up to the caliber of Bo Nix right now, where he is at this point in his career, though you can see it the way the Steelers offense is mixing. I look back at that game, and that's the only thing I think that gets me nervous is like, hey, you have to take care of your business here. And the Bills defense, I'm not going to put too much weight into this game, but the Bills defense has also not been up to par by any standard that we've seen them do in the past. And they put up 31 points almost in the first half, the Broncos did, against, again, the Chiefs backups. But there's not a lot of optimism right now that the Bills defense is a team that can maybe hold a Bo Nix hot offense to anything lower than, I don't know, say like 24 or something like that. It still feels like the Bills are going to have to put up 30 points.
Against a very good Broncos defense. A very good Broncos defense, one of the better units in the league. And they're so good because of two things. One, their defensive line is pretty dominant, and they generate a lot of pressure. It's different, though. It's not like from one or two elite pass rushers. It's kind of from the entire line.
They just set like their franchise's record for most team sacks in a season in this game today.
Now, the counter to that is that Josh Allen has been the least sacked quarterback in the NFL this year. Part of that is the Bills' offensive line is fantastic. And also, he is really good at avoiding sacks because of his mobility. The other thing that makes the Broncos defense so good is they've got Pat Surtain, who is the best cornerback in the NFL and one of the best defensive players in the NFL. But Pat Surtain is a really good player at canceling out somebody. He doesn't always follow a team's top guy, but you just know you're probably not throwing to that side. The Bills have options, though, and that's kind of what makes a player like that, while still impactful, a little bit less impactful, because like if the Bills still had Stephon Diggs, right, you would be like, okay, Pat Surtain's going to probably see a lot of Stephon Diggs, and that's going to take away maybe our most dangerous weapon. Now, I don't know who he's going to go against. He's probably going to do a little bit of Amari Cooper. Maybe they'll put him inside a little bit with Shakir, probably a little bit of Keon Coleman. But like that's the beauty.
And that's not something Pat Surtain has had to do a lot of this year. He's gone against a lot of teams where there's a guy and he's the guy who has to go up against them. You don't really see him moved around all that much. I'm not saying Pat Surtain can't do that, but he's going to be out of his element a little bit in that regard.
It's just one of those things where the Bills, this whole everybody eats thing actually works in their favor because they don't have to force it to a guy to know that they can have success. There are a lot of different ways the Bills have been able to move the ball this year, and I think that's a really good sign moving forward. But, you know, it's a good defense. It's not going to be something where I think you're just pouring points on. The other thing, though, is, you know, a lot of people were going into this day, we're recording this on Sunday, and they didn't want to play the Bengals. And I totally understand that. I would imagine people are probably happier with this matchup, but, you know, it's easy to say that. They're a very balanced, good team on both sides of the ball.
It doesn't matter. You're in the playoffs. I mean, it's the top 7 teams from the AFC. You have to bring it, right? Because, and you brought it up earlier, like you can't go into this thinking that the Broncos are going to be a cakewalk, because when Skylar Thompson and the Miami Dolphins came in, I think beating a division team twice in a season, because they had split that year, but let alone playing a division team 3 times in a year is a very difficult thing to do. As you mentioned, Skylar Thompson almost ended this team's season 2 years ago in a wild card, right? So there is a lot. I think balance is the right word. Defensively, I think the Bills will have some struggles.
They're up 38-0. They just scored again, 38-0.
Yeah, and
so that game is, I mean, it was done before. Bo Nix's stat line.
Now, mind you, like Denver's at home right now too, so like Denver has to come into a playoff atmosphere in Highmark Stadium. That does amount for something.
Listen to the stat line. This is a Josh Allen game. He's 26 of 29 passing for 321 yards, 4 touchdowns, 7 rushes for 47 yards. So he is accounted for 370 yards of offense and 4 touchdowns. So, you know, it's different going against the Chiefs backups than it will be against the Bills starters. But the Bills defense is the thing that kind of, you know, keeps me a bit concerned about any game that they play, not the offense.
One thing that we've talked about so much this season, and I think that has to be the big defensive emphasis for the Bills throughout this playoffs. But let's just start with Denver, right? Defensive line has to get pressure. You've got to get pressure on Bo Nix. He's mobile. He can move out of the pocket, but like if you can just get Greg Rousseau and Vaughn and Ed and Daquan, guys who weren't playing today, right? You got to get them going, and you can very much start to disrupt Bo Nix. And then again, you're asking a disrupted Bo Nix to come back, probably beat you in a road atmosphere, playoff style at Highmark Stadium. Stack the chips on your side.
I just thought about Vaughn. I hadn't even thought about Vaughn. Not from like I hadn't thought about Vaughn from like a, hey, what if he does something? He's going against the Broncos. Like he's going
that might mean something.
That might mean something. Like if you're going to get something out of that guy, you saw what he could do in one play with $1.5 million at stake. Maybe the Bills should just incentivize him for the rest of the season, however long it goes. Hey, Von, every time you get a sack, we'll give you another $1 million. And maybe that'll just light him on fire or something for the rest of the season, and he'll just play like a man possessed. But I do think going against the Broncos probably means something to him. I think that the Bills will have to confuse Bo Nix a little bit. The thing that's interesting about the Broncos is it's a little bit like the Bills, where the sum is greater than the parts. Their weapons, if you just look at a roster, do not scare you as much as they would if the Bengals were coming to town. Right. If the Bengals were coming to town, it would be, okay, now you got to stop Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, probably Chase Brown, and Joe Burrow, who is having a statistical masterclass of a season. Now it's a rookie quarterback, Cortland Sutton, good player, but, not Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, Marvin Mims, who's really good, by the way. So, I've said some good players, but I haven't said somebody like Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. So that's the trade-off. Their offense is not as intimidating as Cincinnati's would have been, but their defense is a heck of a lot more intimidating than Cincinnati's would have been. And keep in mind, that same Bengals team beat this Broncos team a week ago, and they had 7 points offensively until the fourth quarter.
And at the end of the day, I agree with all that. I still think if you're Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills, the Broncos winning today was exactly what you wanted, though. Again, not having to play the Dolphins.
They'll never say that. They'll never ever say it. Certainly, I understand the thought.
But not having to play a division opponent 3 times in a season, having to beat them now 3 times.
What's the score of that game?
Or the Bengals and their high and mighty offense.
Dolphins are down 18-6. So now it wouldn't have mattered. I know Tua's hurt and everything, but that's a whole nother storyline.
But you got what you wanted. You got there. And I also think, you had mentioned this to me a little while ago. Do you, I know the Chiefs are playing backups today. Do you think that they also were like, hey, we kind of want the Broncos to win because that keeps maybe Cincinnati?
Yeah, it's a little more like chess, not checkers, right? I don't think so, because I think that they could have made the argument of then all of a sudden the Bills have a tougher matchup, and we would like to see the Bill, because I would imagine they view the Bills as the bigger threat at this point than they do Cincinnati. So I don't think you would want to, change that potential crash course. So I don't know.
But they put up 0 points today, and I know, again, backups, right? It's Carson Wentz. It's Andy Reid and the Chiefs, though. You can't tell me against they couldn't just manufacture a little bit of something there too.
Well, this is what I'll say about that, and this is what I feel about the Bills also. You're not showing anything now. You're not doing anything schematically that you plan on to use in the playoffs. And the Bills did that today. Their offense was incredibly vanilla.
Yeah.
Calling it vanilla is probably even too promising of a word to use. Everything is so baseline. There is no way the Chiefs are trying to do anything that they might think they do in the playoffs. Now, for the Broncos, they had to, because they had to get to the playoffs. So this is like a regular season game. The one thing, though, that I'm telling myself is a benefit for the Bills. We don't know when the game is going to be played, but it is a team that's out mountain time, coming across the country to the East Coast. It's going to be on potentially, if they play on Saturday, it would be on short rest. If they play on Sunday, I know that it'll line up the same way, but they're traveling. There's a lot of reasons why the Bills should win this game. And I say all this stuff it's not a slam dunk. When the lines come out for the matchups, the Bills will probably be around a touchdown favorite in this game. And if you can't win a playoff game at home as a 5, 6, 7 point favorite, then you're not good enough to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And that's kind of where the conversation ends.
Yep, it is. And again, I'm not going to put much stock like maybe some people do. I think there's a lot of significance, though. Again, the Broncos having to come to Highmark in a playoff atmosphere with Bo Nix getting his first taste of what Highmark Stadium is like.
I mean, they're undefeated in Buffalo this year.
I mean, sea level is important, and that's where the Bills basically play, as close to sea level as you can get compared to Denver. I don't know how much that truly matters, but again, you're going across the country basically to a very hostile environment where Josh Allen knows that, again, the window conversation is there.
Yeah, so we'll see how it plays out. This is going to be a fun week. We know now it's the Bills and Broncos. We don't know the time yet as we're recording this. You got a guess? I'm guessing Saturday, probably Saturday night is my guess.
I'm just going to be different. I'm going to say Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I'm going to say Sunday 1 o'clock, just because maybe if that line, I think if that line is, God forbid, anything more than 7.5, it's an 8.5 line. Putting that in a primetime slot, I don't know. The case for the Bills playing in primetime, though, the Bills.
Yeah.
Like, that's big TV. They drive ratings up. So I feel like they're going to want to put a Josh Allen Bo Nix matchup in prime time. So I agree with you, but I also think, just for the sake of being different, a Sunday 1 o'clock I think is absolutely in the realm of possibility.
All right, we will be covering this team for the entire week. We will have special editions of Leading the Charge on Channel 7 this week, getting you ready for the game.
Probably a lot of this, too.
Yeah, a lot of this. We're going to chit-chat with you along the way. So it's Bills, Broncos. Welcome to the playoffs, everyone. That's Dom Tibbetts. I'm Matt Bove. We'll talk to you guys soon.